the real living God.
Amen.
So, and when he shared, he said when we first started, my passion was to share in one village. And then when I started working with Serve India, they gave me a passion to share, with every village in every district in Tamil Nadu. So, he's got a passion. So that's the second guy. The third guy, Brother Dandapani, again, very interesting, Hindu background. He was a guy who used to work in a marketplace carrying sacks. A lot of you have actually, been in India, you see, these guys carrying sacks. That was his profession, Hindu background again. And he said, he was deathly ill, and the Lord saved him, healed him, and saved him. As a result, he was saved, his family started believing, and he has a passion to work for the Lord as well. He said the Lord's given him a dislike for money. So he says, so he works really hard, but whatever he earns, he wants to use that to, glorify God, to extend his kingdom. He says, that's some other passion that God's given me. He's given me this dislike for money, but to use everything and whatever I have, to his kingdom. But the interesting thing is, if you look at these three, they wouldn't fit the typical profile of a pastor. But yet they're reaching souls incredibly well in the setting that they're in, because all of these guys grew up in the villages, so the villages know them, they know their life before they were transformed, they know the life after they were transformed. So the villages have a huge, respect for them as well. But the last one I want to go through is again an interesting one. This is the church where we met, it's a thatched church. But the picture that you see on the right is the house of one of the pastors. Now I say house because that room right there is the living room, the family room, the bedroom, the kitchen. It's all combined in one. And it's about, maybe 8 by 8, and when we went there it was damp, there was moisture all over, but that is the home that they live in. What you see down below, as you just exit his house, right outside his house, you see this temple that they built. And this guy says, with tears running down his eyes, he says, I used to be a Hindu, but I wasn't just a normal Hindu. I was an ardent Hindu. And my passion was to build temples. So this temple that you see outside my house is a temple that I built. And he says, I was so passionate, the dome that you see on the temple, I carried that 5 kilometers on my back because I wanted to bring it and I wanted to put it on top of the temple. So he says, now that I've accepted the Lord, my life's changed. I want to build a church in every district in Tamil Nadu. That's the passion that the Lord's given me. And he says, every day I come out of my house, it's a reminder of my whole life. And he's again, one of the pastors. So out of the 20, probably 5 or 6 of them were Hindu converts. But the amazing thing is, because their lives have been transformed, they go back to the villages, and the villages really see how their lives have been transformed, and it's powerful. Now, if I look at, really what it meant for me, I spent a day there, but when I came back, I was really thinking about this quite a bit. And really, Lord, what are you actually trying to tell me? And there were some things that came up. The first one is that He is still at work. See, He is still at work. I know a lot of times when I'm actually, at church, and I see a lot of different things, but I don't see the raw power of God operating. And when I went into that village, it was an eye-opener for me because I saw God's raw power just transforming lives. The second thing that I saw was He still uses uneducated fishermen. None of these guys were educated. But if you look at their lives and how they've been transformed, and you look at the passion that they have for it, God is using that in just incredible ways. And for me, it was a reminder again to just be available to God, and that's the most important thing that He seeks. The third one is the greatest miracle is a transformed life. God is doing amazing miracles, signs and wonders, and that's why people are actually turning to the Lord, because you see the sick people getting healed, people who are on their deathbed being risen up. That's why a lot of people are coming to the Lord. But I still think the greatest miracle is a transformed life. And when I looked at these 4 guys and how their life used to be before, into witchcraft and being a magician and all of that, to where they are now, it's just an incredible miracle. Amen. And then the last thing is, really a question of the heart for me, because when I actually looked at this, I was watching a DVD the other day by a guy named Francis Chan. I don't know if some of you have heard of him. But right in the middle of the DVD, he actually paused and he looked straight in the camera and he said, "Have you ever wept for the unsaved?" And I thought about it for a second, and I really couldn't remember a time, at least in the recent past, when I could say that I wept for the unsaved. And then I went back to this. These guys, when they were actually in the fasting and prayer, we spent that time with them. They were on their knees with their hands held high, just weeping for their villages, weeping for their friends, weeping for their families. And when I looked at that, I was thinking, we support Serve India, but really, is it coming from that kind of a heart where they're weeping for the souls of these people? And that's what leads them to do what they do. So for me, it was again a reminder. A lot of times I get caught up in, the administrative stuff. How, which missions, how do we support it, when do we support it, how much do we support, and so on. It really came down to me for a question of the heart. Do I have a heart that really seeks after, what God wants, which is the unsaved? Because, if I operate out of that, then I look at things the way God sees them. So that's what it was for me, but was, just amazing. And for me, again, a reminder again of why NBCF exists. See, this is a ministry that I would have never heard of before. And even if I look at, our vision on how we want to, look at indigenous missions that have never been heard of before, that had good governance processes that worked, back in India. This is an amazing ministry, and they're doing amazing work. I had no idea, and I really, thank Sam and Janita for, introducing us to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. I just want to run by some quick announcements and hold that slide, don't move, just keep it there. And just general announcements, we all know that we meet first and third Sundays. There are some special Sundays coming up. Sunday, the March 20th, it's all in your bulletin, an evening of praise and worship. And Finny Prem Kumar, I think, is going to lead that day for us. And April 1st Sunday and third Sunday we'll meet again. And April 17th will be the Palm Sunday services at 4 p.m. And then we're going to have a special Good Friday service on Friday, April 22nd. So please note that and tell your friends and neighbors, invite them to attend these services. Our worship through giving, you all know that. We have an agape box back at the end. It's all between you and God. So we encourage that you worship the God with your tithes and offerings. Midweek prayer, you also know about that. We have a 800 number. We all get together over the phone, conference call and pray. And I encourage many of you to join that. It's a great time. It's only half an hour. It's in your own home, comfort of your home, you can do it. You don't have to go anywhere. You can be lying on your bed if you choose to. But you just pick up the phone, dial that 800 number, the code, and join us in prayer. At time of worship, we sing and listen to the word and pray. And there's a fasting prayer plan, which is coming up next Saturday. And it's between 11 and 3 o'clock in Satish and Misha's home. And we emphasize prayer in this place because that only we are where we are today. From 2 years ago when we started this thing, it's all the prayers, all of us together. So I encourage you to be part of the fasting prayer. And then finally, I want to talk to you about the mission trip. I haven't talked about it for a while, since December. And I got some great news. I'm very excited about it now. And I was a little bit discouraged at the end of December because not too many people really came forward and said, we want to go. But in the beginning of the year, I sent out an email. I said, look, if you want to be committed to this, you have to come to this meeting. Otherwise, this is not going to happen. And lo and behold, 13 people showed up. So just to give you a quick idea of where we are in the mission trip planning, first of all, the status, we have finalized the dates. And we have identified which missions we are going to go and work with. It's going to be part of the 26 missions we work with. So we selected some of them. We have identified the teams. And we have already met a couple of times. We got together in my place. We talked about all this. We prayed together. So things are progressing. So let's move on. That's the mission team who are all committed to go. And up of it is, of course, my name and my wife Cynthia is there. Vish and Hoshala, they're here. And Hubert and Joanna, and Vasant and Salvina, they decided to come. Kanchana, Andrea's our junior, very most youngest person who's going to be on the team. She is agreed to come. And Jemmy is going to be part of us. She's going to leave behind Arvind and the two kids, and she's going to come. And John and Jenna are the American couple. They're getting married very shortly, I think in the next 2 weeks. And they came through a wish from this church, and they decided to come and join us. They were so excited. They were there for the last meeting, and very young people, still not